This is the seventh day of the March 91 7-day retreat at Springwater. And we will, as we usually do, read from the writings of Wang Po and Krishnamurti, not to bring in ultimate authorities, but to listen to someone else speak. Wang Po was a Zen teacher who lived in the 10th century. His language is Buddhist. He was trained and taught in that tradition. When he uses the word Buddha, it does not just refer to the historical personage, but to undivided wholeness with its compassion and wisdom. The selections have been at times heavily cut, sentences and words left out. With this group of participants in mind. Since materials which are being read this morning are copyrighted, we will tape, but the tapes are not for sale. This book is called The Zen Teaching of Wang Po and is translated by John Blofeld. The translation is from recordings made by Wang Po's disciple Pesu, who was a Buddhist scholar, very much involved with Buddhist doctrine and concepts, as one infers from the dialogues and teachings. He was also the governor of the province where Wang Po taught. The Master said to me, "All the Buddhas and all sentient beings are nothing but the one mind, beside which nothing exists. This mind which is without beginning is unborn and indestructible. It is not green nor yellow and has neither form nor appearance. It does not belong to the categories of things which exist or do not exist, nor can it be thought of in terms of young or old. It is neither long nor short, big nor small, for it transcends all limits, measures, names, traces, and comparisons. It is that which you see before you. Begin to reason about it and you at once fall into error. It is like the boundless void which cannot be fathomed or measured. The one mind alone is Buddha, and there is no distinction between Buddha and sentient beings, but that sentient beings are attached to forms and so seek externally for Buddhahood, for wholeness. By their very seeking they lose it, for that is using mind to grasp mind. Even though they were to do their utmost for a full eon, they will not be able to attain to it. They do not know that if they put a stop to conceptual thought and forget their anxiety, the Buddha will appear before them. For this mind is Buddha, and Buddha is all living beings. It is not the less for being manifested in ordinary beings, nor is it greater for being manifested in the Buddhas. Once I put this question to the Master: how many of the 400 or 500 persons gathered here on this mountain have fully understood your Reverence's teaching? The Master answered, Their number cannot be known. Why? Because this way is through mind awakening. How can it be conveyed in words? Speech only produces some effect when it falls on the uninstructed ears of children. When we talk of the knowledge I may gain, the learning I may achieve, my intuitive understanding, my deliverance from rebirth, and my moral way of living, our successes make these concepts seem pleasant to us, but our failures make them appear deplorable. What is the use of all that? I advise you to remain uniformly quiescent and above all activity. Do not deceive yourselves with conceptual thinking, and do not look anywhere for the truth, for all that is needed is to refrain from allowing concepts to arise. It is obvious that mental concepts and external perceptions are equally misleading, and that the way of the Buddhas is as dangerous to you as the way of demons. So, full understanding can come to you only through an inexpressible mystery. The approach to it is called the gateway of the stillness beyond all activity. If you wish to understand, know that a sudden comprehension comes when the mind is purged of all the clutter of conceptual and discriminatory thought activity. Those who seek the truth by means of intellect and learning only get further and further away from it. Not till your thoughts cease all their branching here and there, not till you abandon all thoughts of seeking for something, will you be on the right road. At this moment, Pessu says, all sorts of erroneous thoughts are constantly flowing through our minds. How can you speak of our having none? Huangpo. Error has no substance. It is entirely the product of your own thinking. If you see that mind is Buddha and mind is fundamentally without error, whenever thoughts arise, you will be fully convinced that they are responsible for errors. If you could prevent all conceptual movement of thought and still your thinking processes, naturally there would be no error left in you. Therefore it is said, when thoughts arise, then do all things arise. When thoughts vanish, then do all things vanish. The danger of listening to a talk like this is to grope now or look for methods to still the thinking process or to prevent conceptual movement of thought, which of course is further application of thought. Can movement of thought and thinking process be seen as it arises, and its ways, its effects and consequences be understood directly? Though others may talk of the way of the Buddhas as something to be reached by various pious practices and scripture study, you must have nothing to do with such ideas. A perception, sudden as blinking, that subject and object are one, will lead to a deeply mysterious, wordless understanding. And by this understanding you will awake to the truth. Let's say one quick thing about this perception that subject and object are one. I did quote that once during one of the talks, and a couple of people said this is always confusing to hear in the reading of Huangpo, and when I said it. One person saying, obviously in looking at a tree, I don't become the tree. So can one understand this this perception that subject and object are one as the absence of division, the absence of the feeling of separation from what is seen or heard. No subject and no object. When you happen upon someone who has no understanding, you must claim to know nothing. He may be delighted by his discovery of some way to enlightenment, yet if you allow yourselves to be persuaded by him, you will experience no delight at all, but suffer both sorrow and disappointment. Even if you do obtain from him some trifling method, it will only be a thought-constructed thing having nothing to do with Zen. Truth is something never lost even in moments of delusion, nor is it gained at the moment of enlightenment. It depends on nothing and is attached to nothing. It is all-pervading, spotless beauty. It is the self-existent and uncreated absolute. Ah, it is a jewel beyond all price. The meaning of the word absolute is not dependent on anything. When a sudden flash of thought occurs in your mind, and you see it for a dream or an illusion, then you can enter into the state reached by the Buddhas of the past. Not that the Buddhas of the past really exist, or that the Buddhas of the future have not yet come into existence. Above all, have no longing to become a future Buddha. Your sole concern should be, as thought succeeds thought, to avoid clinging to any of them. Nor may you entertain the least ambition to be a Buddha here and now. Even if a Buddha arises, do not think of him as enlightened or deluded, good or evil. Hasten to rid yourself of any desire to cling to him. Cut him off in the twinkling of an eye. On no account seek to hold him fast, for 1,000 locks could not stay him, nor 100,000 feet of rope bind him. This being so, valiantly strive to banish and annihilate him. I will now make luminously clear how to set about being rid of that Buddha. Consider the sunlight. You may say it is near, yet if you follow it from world to world, you will never catch it in your hands. Yet then you may describe it as far away, and lo, you will see it just before your eyes. Follow it, and behold, it escapes you. Run from it, and it follows you close. You can neither possess it nor have done with it. From this example you can understand how it is with the true nature of all things, and henceforth there will be no need to grieve or to worry about such things. When the moment of understanding comes, do not think in terms of understanding, not understanding or not understanding, for none of these is something to be grasped. This truth of thusness, when grasped, in quotation marks, is grasped, but he who grasps it is no more conscious of having done so than someone ignorant of it is conscious of his failure. As for those people who seek to grasp it through the application of some particular principle, or by creating a special environment, or through some scripture or doctrine or age or time or name or word, or through their 6 senses, how do they differ from wooden dolls? Refrain from seeking Buddhahood. since any search is doomed to failure. Some madman shrieking on the mountaintop, on hearing the echo far below, may go to seek it in the valley. But oh, how vain his search! Once in the valley, he shrieks again, and straightway climbs to search among the peaks. Why, he may spend 1,000 rebirths or 10,000 eons searching for the source of these sounds by following their echoes. Far better that you make no sound, for then there will be no echo. No knowing, no sound, no track, no trace. Here's a very short selection from the last of Krishnamurti's journals, called Krishnamurti to Himself. He was speaking those into a tape recorder, and they were recorded in 1983. As we were saying, there is no psychological evolution. The psyche can never become or grow into something which it is not. Conceit and arrogance cannot grow into better and more conceit, nor can selfishness, which is the common lot of all human beings, become more and more selfish, more and more of its own nature. It is rather frightening to realize that the very word hope contains the whole world of the future. This movement from what is to what should be is an illusion, is really, if one can use the word, a lie. We accept that man has repeated throughout the ages. We accept what man has repeated throughout the ages as a matter of fact. But when we begin to question, doubt, we can see very clearly, if we want to see it, and not hide behind some image or some fanciful verbal structure, the nature and the structure of the psyche, the ego, the me. The me can never become a better me. It will attempt to, it thinks it can, but the me remains in subtle forms. The self hides in many garments, in many structures. It varies from time to time, but there's always this self, this separative, self-centered activity which imagines that one day it will make itself something which it is not. So one sees there is no becoming of the self. There is only the ending of selfishness, of anxiety, of pain and sorrow, which are the content of the psyche, of the me. There is only the ending of all of that. And that ending does not require time. It isn't that it will all end the day after tomorrow. It will only end when there is the perception of its movement. To perceive not only objectively, without any prejudice, bias, but to perceive without all the accumulations of the past. To witness all this without the watcher. The watcher is of time, and however much he may want to bring about a mutation in himself, he will always be the watcher. Remembrances, however pleasurable, have no reality. They are things of the past, gone, finished, dead. Only in observing without the observer, who is the past, does one see the nature of time and the ending of time. Preceding this was, there's a hummingbird going from flower to flower, brightness in its quiet light, with such vitality in that little thing. The rapidity of the wings, so fantastically rhythmical, steady. It seems it can move forward and backward. It's a marvelous thing to watch it, to feel the delicacy, the bright color, and wonder at its beauty, so small, so rapid, and so quickly gone. And there's a mockingbird on the telephone wire. Another bird is sitting on the top of that tree overlooking the whole world. It has been there for over half an hour, never moving but watching, moving its little head to see that there is no danger. And it too has gone now. The clouds are beginning to move away from the hills, and how green the hills are. Now comes what we just read. And then the hummingbird has come back again. A ray of sunlight through the broken clouds has caught it, flashing its colors and the long, thin beak and the rapidity of those wings. The pure watching of that little bird, without any reaction, just watching it, is to watch the whole world of beauty. Next is a last question that was asked of Krishnamurti when he was at Los Alamos in 1984. Once I didn't read it and people told me they didn't know what Los Alamos was, so here it is. It's a government city of utilitarian structures on top of a 7,000-foot plateau near Santa Fe. When Dr. Oppenheimer, the great physicist and Sanskrit scholar, discovered this site, it was untouched save for a small private school for boys and several unexcavated ancient Indian pueblos. It was selected to be the center of America's atomic research soon after the United States entered World War II. Today, some 40 years later, it has grown from the small village of its beginnings to a city of more than 20,000 inhabitants. Its focus of activity is now more diffuse than atomic research, but still of a highly secret nature. And a talk was given there, and questions were solicited. And the last, it says here, of the 15 questions handed to him on March 21, 1984, Krishnamurti answered only the first and the last. What is meditation and how it is related to creativity? And this is the one we're going to read. If you were the director of this laboratory with responsibility for the defense of the country and recognizing the way things are, how would you direct the activities of the laboratory and research? Krishnamurti, thank God I'm not. But if I am, would I put this question? Is the question the right question? Questioner. Sir, it's a question trying to find a connection between your theories, your beliefs of mankind, and what we're all trying to do, and the practical everyday problems that we have. K. Yes, sir, everyday problems. Earning a livelihood, sex, having children or not having children, vocation, which is now becoming imitation, everyday problems of quarrels, disagreements, pain, hurts, suffering. You see, our daily existence and our brains are trained from childhood to solve problems. And the speaker is saying that seeking a solution prevents the understanding of the problem. Our brains are trained to solutions. I have a problem with my wife. What is the solution? Divorce, or going to a lawyer, or adjustment, or running away, all that kind of stuff. But the problem is what? My assertions, my wishes, my fulfillment, and hers. Let's understand that, discuss it, finish it. If I am seeking a solution, I never go into the question. The causation of the problems can be ended, not through a solution, but through the understanding of the problem itself. Sorry, the question is if I am the director. Sir, the answer is that it's the wrong question, because this should have been put right at the beginning of man's history, not now. At the beginning of killing man, one human being killing another human being in the name of religion, in the name of the country, in the name of God, in the name of crown and loyalty. My country as opposed to your country, my ideology as opposed to your ideology. I'm a devout Marxist, I'm not, or Leninist, and another is a Catholic, so we are at war with each other. That is the real time to ask this question, not at the end of all this, what should I do? We have brought about this. We have divided the world. You're a Christian, I'm a black, you're a white, you're a Caucasian, and I'm a Chinese, whatever the beastly thing is. We are divided. We have fought each other from the beginning of time. The Western civilization has killed more people than any other civilization. It is a fact. I'm not against it or for it. Sir, a group of people like you in Los Alamos, you have given your time for destruction and also for construction. You're doing a great deal of benefit, and on the other hand, you're destroying every human being on earth because you have recognized my country, my responsibilities, my defense. And the Russians are saying exactly the same thing on the other side. India, which has immense poverty, is saying the same thing, building up arms. So what is the answer to this? If I have a group who says, let's forget all nationalism, all religions, let us as human beings solve this problem, how to live together without destruction. If we gave time to all that as a group of absolutely dedicated people who have gathered here together at Los Alamos for one purpose and are concerned with all the things we've been talking about, then perhaps there's something new that can take place. Sir, we have never faced death. Oppenheimer in Sanskrit said, I have become death. You know that very well. And we don't understand death either, which we'll not go into now. But we have become destroyers, and we also benefit human beings at the same time. Right, sir? I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm not a propagandist. But the world is like this now. Nobody is thinking about it. Nobody has a global outlook, a global feeling for all humanity. Not just for my country, for God's sakes. If you went around the world as the speaker does, you would cry for the rest of your life. Pacifism is a reaction to militarism, that's all. The speaker is not a pacifist. Instead, let's look at the cause of all this, the beginning of all this. If a causation is there, if we all seek together this causation, then the thing is solved. But each one has different opinions about the causation and sticks to his opinions, his historical directories. So, sir, there it is. Questioner. Sir, if I may say so, I think you have convinced us. Krishnamurti, I'm not convincing anyone. Questioner. Maybe I'm not using the proper word. I think you have seen from the silence of the audience that we seem to have enough energy, that we seem to have enough energy to understand and appreciate the problem. Okay, no sir, don't say that. Questioner. What I mean is that when once we really try to understand this and do something in that direction, somehow we seem to lack the necessary energy. With the result, we're still not able to make as much progress as we all like. I would like to hear a few comments from you. What is it that is really holding us back? We can see it We can see it and we can see the house on fire, but still we're not able to do anything about stopping the fire. Would you like some water? He says, we're not able to do anything about stopping the fire. Okay. The house on fire, which we think is out there, is in here. We have to put our house in order first, sir. I was once called by a family whom I've known for some time. Their son came to see me and said, my father is dying. Will you please come and see him? And you know, in all families that takes place, the father is dying and they all surround him crying. So I asked the father to chase them out of the room. So he said, get out. He made them leave. And they all left and he locked the door. He said, I'm dying, disease incurable, and I'm frightened. So I sat with him and held his hand. And he said it was the first time somebody held his hand. And I said, the speaker said to him, let's die together. Which means what? He was leaving all his family. He had a lovely house, a very rich man. And I said, you're leaving all that, and that's what you're afraid of. And also, you're afraid of the unknown, and you are attached. When there's attachment, there's fear, and so on. We talked gently together, and I said, if there's any kind of attachment, I will die with you. You're free of attachment. So death has an extraordinary meaning in life. To live with death, not separate, not dead there and living here, but together. And this selection is the second of the talk before the last that he gave in India. He died about a month later. We're trying to find out what it means to die while living, not committing suicide. I'm not talking about that kind of nonsense. I want to find out for myself what it means to die, which means, can I be totally free from everything that man has created, including myself? What does it mean to die? To give up everything. Death cuts you off with a very sharp razor from your attachments, from your gods, from your superstitions, from your desire for comfort, next life, and so on and so on. I'm going to find out what death means, because it is as important as living. How can I find out actually, not theoretically, what it means to die? Put that question to yourself while we're young or when you're very old. This question is always there. It means to be totally free, to be totally unattached to everything that man has put together or what you have put together, totally free. No attachments, no gods, no future, no past. See the beauty of it, the greatness of it, the extraordinary strength of it while living to be dying. Do you understand what that means? While you're living, every moment you're dying, so that throughout life you're not attached to anything. That is what death means. So living is dying, you understand? Living means that every day you are abandoning everything that you're attached to. Can you do this? A very simple fact, but it has tremendous implications. So that each day is a new day. Each day you are dying and incarnating. There is tremendous vitality, energy there, because there's nothing you're afraid of. There's nothing that can hurt you. that can hurt. Being hurt doesn't exist. Abandoning everything doesn't mean to leave the home and become a hermit. He has expressed that clearly at other places. All the things that man has put together have to be totally abandoned. That's what it means to die. Can you do it? Will you try it? Will you experiment with it? Not for just a day, every day. Your brains are not trained for this. Your brains have been conditioned so heavily by your education, by your tradition, by your books, by your professors. It requires finding out what love is. Love and death go together. Death says, be free, non-attached. You can carry nothing with you. And love says, there's no word for it. Love can exist only when there's freedom, the energy of complete freedom. Oh, this is from Questions and Answers, published by the Krishnamurti Foundation, India. I don't know the time of these questions and answers. It doesn't say here. When I listen to you, there is an urgency to change. When I return home, it fades. What am I to do? Krishnamurti, what are you to do? Is the urgency to change due to or influenced by the speaker? While you're here, you're driven into a corner, but when you leave, that is no longer so. It means that you're being challenged, influenced, driven, persuaded, and when that is gone, you are where you were. Now, what is one to do? Please let us think out the right answer to this. What is one to do? I come to this gathering from a distant place. It is a lovely day. I have put up a tent and I'm really interested. I have read not only what the speaker has said, but a great deal besides. I know the Christian and the Buddhist concepts, the Hindu mythology, and I have also done different forms of meditation, the TM, the Tibetan, the Hindu, and Buddhist. But I am dissatisfied with all those, so I come here and I listen. Now, am I prepared to listen completely? I cannot listen completely if I bring all my knowledge here with me. I cannot listen or learn or comprehend completely if I belong to some sect, if I'm attached to one particular concept, and if I also want to add to what is said here. I must come, if I'm serious, with a free mind, with a mind that says, let us find out, not, I want to add what you're saying to what I already know. So what is one's attitude going to be? The speaker has been saying constantly, freedom is absolutely necessary. Psychological freedom first, not the physical freedom which you have in the democratic, if not in the totalitarian countries. Inward freedom can only come about when one understands one's conditioning, the conditioning which is both social and cultural, religious, economic, and physical. Can one be free of that? Of the psychological conditioning? Me first, everybody else second. What is difficult in all this is that we cling to something so deeply that we are unwilling to let go. One has studied various things and one is attracted to a particular psychological school. One has gone into it, studied it, and found out that there's a great deal in it, and one sticks to it. And then one comes here and listens and adds what one has heard to that. So it all becomes a mélange, a mixture of everything. Are we not doing that? Our minds become very confused. And for the time being, when you are here, that confusion is somewhat pushed away and diminished. But when you leave, it is back again. Can one be aware of this confusion? Not only while you're here, but when you're at home? That is much more important. So what does it all indicate? We have the intelligence to solve technological problems, the problem-solving mind, we have all that, but it is not intelligence. The capacity to think clearly, objectively, and to be aware of the limitations of thinking, that is the beginning of intelligence. We worship thinking. The more cleverly we can think, the greater we see ourselves as being. Whereas, if we could observe our own confusion, our own individual narrow way of looking at life, if we could be aware of all that, we would see how thought is perpetually creating problems. Thought creates the image, and that image divides. To see that requires intelligence. To see psychological dangers is intelligence. But apparently we do not see those things. That means somebody has to goad you all the time, push you, drive you, ask you, persuade you, beg you to make you aware of yourself. And then you move from here, not just stay there. And I'm afraid nobody's going to do that for you, not even the most enlightened human being, because then you become his slave. Vitality, physical and psychological energy is, as you are now, being dissipated in conflict, in worry, in chattering, in endless gossip, not only with others, but with oneself. This endless chattering. It all dissipates the psychological energy that is needed to observe ourselves in the mirror of relationship. We're all related to somebody or other, and so discover our illusions, images, absurdities. Then out of that observation comes freedom and the intelligence which will show the way of life. We will end here for today.